Hey, y'all. So normally when we have conversations like this, we start by saying that this is I don't even remember what we're calling it.
What's the deal with?
What's the deal with? So I think we actually could start with that, right? What's the
Right.
deal with SCOTUS? What is the deal with SCOTUS overturning Roe versus Wade? And maybe it's more like, what's the deal with how do we manage
Yeah.
after that? I think it's more like that. I think it's more what it is today. And
the aftermath.
Yeah. And if you're new to who we are, I'm Amy Birks, and I help purpose-driven businesses and brands to scale without sacrifice. And this is my best friend,
Kelly Sheets, and I'm a leadership and personal coach, and I help people feel really fulfilled and powerful, which is what we're going to talk about today.
That is the thing. That's
the thing, man.
Yeah. So the reason that we're talking about this today is because, because everybody's talking about it, but because I had, I think we're all if you're a woman, I think anybody living in this country, in the United States of America, you're probably having some sort of a feeling about it. My sense.
My friend from Australia messaged me the morning after she heard.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is not, people around the world are looking at us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so I think we're all having our own individual feelings about it. But I messaged Kelly today, or Kelly and I were talking today, and I was saying how I had read the very few times that I'm ever on social media, I had read a colleague's post about it. And she was talking about how she had, shared a personal story of her experience with, a life-saving abortion. And then some dude jumped into her thread, and number one, he's a dude. And number two, he was mansplaining, and he's an attorney, and he's a conservative, and all these things to say to, mansplain and shame, victim shame, like all the things, victim blame and shaming her. And that I immediately was like, oh my God, I just want to jump through my phone and punch this guy in the face. That was my immediate reaction. And then, the me that is me was like, that's not probably the best thing to do right now. But my sense
is it technically available?
Right. It's not even I couldn't even
unbelievable if you could do that.
If I could actually do that, that would be, can you imagine how much money I could make if we could do that? Holy shit. Oh my God. I could jump through the phone and hang out with you anytime we wanted. That would be amazing.
Actually, I kind of like that idea.
Right. But anyway, my sense is that I'm not the only person who is feeling like you wish you could jump through the phone, or, I overheard the way that I found out about the verdict was that I was at the gym in the locker room, changing my clothes. I just got out of the shower, and these two, white women of privilege were standing there having a conversation about it and spewing their opinions and, all their thoughts about what women should do when they are stupid enough to get themselves into that scenario, need an abortion and all there. And I'm like, all I want to do is just go out there and school these women. Right. And I could feel it in my body. So anyway, my sense is that I'm not the only one that's having those kind of feelings, and that I also know that it's not beneficial to make decisions or to react from a place of fear, which is what I was feeling. I am afraid, I am angry, I have all these big feelings about this. And so knowing that that's probably not the best way to respond to all this, I was like, oh, who can help me with this? Kelly can help me with this, because she always helps me with stuff like this. So I called Kelly today to say, I really want to have a conversation about this, because I think that there are lots of people, not just women, who are struggling with this and who are faced with these scenarios where they're getting triggered, they're seeing shit, they're feeling their stuff. They want to do, it may not even be that they're overhearing a conversation or, something like that is happening. And they just have, we just are having feelings about this having happened and how ridiculous it is, and want to do something. And so you are so good at helping us all figure out what we should do when stuff like this is happening. So let's talk about that. I think the first thing that the question that I would pose to you, which is one that we were talking about earlier that I thought was so helpful, is when we're in this space where we're feeling this outrage and this overwhelm, right? How can we turn that? What's the very next thing we should do? How do we turn that into beneficial action? Because that is what we all want to do. We just want to do something. What can we do?
Yeah. So the thing we talked about, first, I'm going to say that the conversation about power, when we become empowered, when we are deriving power internally and moving through the world that way, it's not black and white. It's not like you always do this, this, and this, because that's disempowerment when it's black and white. That's power is so fluid and responsive. So every situation requires curiosity and presence with what's going on. What am I feeling? What's happening? But the one thing I said to you that I think really rings true is that most of us want to go from anger and fear, which is, they're both, if you're angry, you always have fear. Anger doesn't exist without fear. So fear is over here. And we're like, I want to get away from fear. So I need to take action because that's going to fix it. And I'm going to feel better. But the thing I said to you was that there's a missing link there. And so many of us habituate to, I'm going from fear and anger. I'm just going to pick the action and I'm going to do something, and that's going to diffuse my feelings and I'm going to feel better because I did something. But in actuality, if we want to experience true fulfillment, resolution of this kind of stuff, then we need to there's a middle point, and that is going from that fear and anger. We must alter our state of being. We must get to a centered, present, powerful state of being before we take action. Because if I'm angry and I dilute that action with my anger, I'm sending fear into the world. Mm-hmm. So if these dudes on the Supreme Court, I'm just going to call them dudes, they decide to take away my right as a human, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm afraid, and all that fear rises. If I don't resolve that, I'm now taking disempowered action.
Say that one more time. If you don't resolve the fear, like that, yes, that outrageous emotion first, yes, then
that any action I take from there is bringing fear with it. And if I do any action and I come at you with fear in me, you're going to react to my fear. Mm-hmm. So now we have this ping pong back and forth, and it's disempowerment, because fear is not power. Fear is a disempowered state. I think we talked about this on another episode of our podcast, but power is when I have access to all of my resources. So it's a very centered state. It's not that I don't feel anything in that state, but it's that I can respond to what I want to do. I get to choose what I'm going to do next. In a disempowered state, I'm the victim of the world and other people's stuff and other people's feelings and their judgments. And that place leaves me without access to all my energy, because I've given it to everyone else to say, okay, you can pull me this way and that way. So that's disempowered. So first you want to get to a state where you have recentered yourself, and then you choose wisely something you can focus your energy on that's actually going to make a difference. So it's like very important middle ground. Your state of being is rippling out. So if you're acting from anger and fear and disempowerment, that's what you're spreading. And a lot of activism is that way. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so, yes. We talked a lot about this when Trump was elected, because I think everybody was like, how did that even happen? And oh my God, mm-hmm. What are we going to do about this? And oh my gosh. Right. And then the resistance, right?
Yeah.
That resistance began. And I was like, I don't know what to do with myself right now, because I don't buy in at all. I'm like mystified that this is where our country has gone. And I feel like meeting resistance with more resistance is not helpful either, because that is what the resistance ultimately was no, we're afraid, this is bullshit, we're gonna, and so that is where I think activism gets so wonky and confusing. And so the other thing that we were talking about earlier that I really want to say, or I really want you to talk about, is we talked about the difference between indifference and inaction, and being powerful, present, and taking action from that place. Because I think that it can feel a lot like to say, what do you mean I'm not going to react for my feelings? I am outraged and angry, and this is bullshit, and I got to make a sign, and I got to go march, and I got to do things, and we got to resist, right? Like, mm-hmm. And if we inserted some presence, some self-maintenance, some self-preservation, some let me be okay first, then I think it creates the ultimate shortcut, because what we think is going to happen when we get all fired up and we react and we go forth and we try to conquer and, you know, do the things and fuck the man and all of that, right? Yeah. Like that, because it's coming from that place of extreme emotion and fear and outrage.
That's what's being created.
Right. But ultimately what we think is going to be on the other side of it ends up so much further down, because then we're just going to, again, like there's no room for conscious discord or for understanding of other opinions or any of those things. And what we really need to be able to create is a more centrist way of being that is less black and white and is more in the gray. That's the thing that we talk a lot about, right? You and I. And so I think that when we can insert that, like, let me, record, stop, skip, hold on, let me just stop, pause, get myself in the right state of mind. Then I can actually have the bandwidth to focus and decide, okay, what is the right action to take here? Then we can like shortcut through all the bullshit that we would have had if we'd been reacting and resisting and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
like
you're wasting energy, right? Like basically we waste energy, which is disempowerment. Like you're just blowing energy off everywhere, you know? But you said something really important, and we talked about this earlier, is that when anyone is familiar with a disempowered state, if they've got, which is very common, it's a reactionary state. So if you're so used to getting pissed off at shit and reacting, and your life is in reaction to everyone else and all the other things all the time, that becomes very familiar. It's a familiar state. So stopping and realizing, wait a minute, I actually want to be powerful and make a true impact. Even though we know we want that, it's going to feel very unfamiliar, because that state of power is unfamiliar to most people. Most people have no idea what it feels like to actually be empowered. It's a wonderful thing, except that when you're not and you don't know what it feels like, it just feels freaking scary, because you're like, but I'm supposed to be doing something now.
I'm not doing anything.
I'm not doing anything, and the fucking sky's going to fall.
Yep.
And that is not true, but the mind will tell you it is. So there is a transition where you have to be able to stop and even know what it feels like to get beyond the reaction and get into a state where I know exactly what I'm thinking right now. And I'm going to respond in a way that I am going to blow the socks off of these people, because I'm not going to beat the socks off of the people. I'm just going to be so laser focused with my energy that it's going to make a difference. And I'm not going to be exhausted by it, because I know exactly what I'm doing. And then I'm going to come back and have lunch with my family, and I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to go to work. And, you know, you're not like consumed with this ball of red anger inside of you. Like, I'm never doing enough. I'm never doing enough. The world is going to die. You know, that's a terrible state to live in. So it's not inaction that you're taking. It's laser focused, powerful action.
That's so
now
much
the other
more
thing,
impactful than the action that comes from the rage, the fear, the red hot emotion.
Right. Yeah. And I like to think of the way that I started years ago, when I had this vision of what would it be like to live in a powerful state of being my own personal power. I imagined the master martial artists, because when you watch them, they are not distracted, right? And they are masters of their body. They're moving through space. They could break something and kill someone, and very little effort. When you watch the true masters, they don't like run around freaking out. They're not like doing anything. No, it's very concise. It's very clear. And then when they're done, they bow and they're done. And it's like, that is how I want to be. Not any coldness, but that's the efficiency I want with my energy.
Yes.
And imagine that, like in the face of some person who is being provocative or saying things, and they're so spun up in their kind of story, and they're trying to provoke you.
Yes.
They're trying to provoke you into fear, right? So that guy commenting on her vulnerable post, he's basically,
poking the bear.
Shot her with that. Yeah. He's like, hey, I'm trying to hook you in. And
take this ticket. Let's go on the crazy train together,
I'm
lady.
Drain your power, honey. You're going to have no female power then. If I suck your power out and all you do is defend and explain yourself and cry and feel sad because I hurt your feelings, boom. It's like the ultimate. So you let someone provoke you, and basically they drained all your power out.
Yep.
So if you can control yourself to not give these people your attention or interest. I love the word interest.
Yes.
like, if I'm not interested in the drama of these guys, then I get to control my energy. And I say, now, I'm not even interested in what they're saying. Now I'm going to put my focus where I want it to go.
Yep.
That is really beautiful.
Talk about, thank you for saying all that, because yes. And I love when you use the word provocative. Yes. This is the two syllabic. Yes. So we were talking, I loved when you used the word provocative, because like, I think when we think about provocative, we think about like sexy clothing and things like that. But no, like a comment like that is it is intended to provoke. It is. And so what I loved, and so then, when you were talking just now about not giving it any interest or attention, like, oh, so this happened, and okay, like, I think many of us saw the writing on the wall, knew that this was probably coming, and whatever, and it's still fucking ridiculous. And you said when we were talking earlier, you talked about how rebellions, right? Like what happens, right? Like those people, how they show up and what they do. And like, I think that is the ultimate, like I want people to take away from this an opportunity to really feel in their body what it might be like to be that powerful, to have that, because I have it regularly now because of all of our years of friendship, but never before we met. And so I think it would be really amazing to be able to say, like, imagine, right, if you just didn't give it any value, if you could just, right, you just saw it there and you were like, oh, interesting, this guy's carrying a lot of his own fear. Wow.
So the level of awareness, I think that most of us have learned that the outside world is more important than our inside experience. We learn to constantly assess the external world, right? So that becomes disempowering, because we're always giving energy out to assess, like, am I performing okay? Am I safe? Will they like me? Will they fire me? Will they love me? Like, we're getting pulled around. Women, particularly, if we're honest.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that is like an animal weakness. And so when I'm saying provoke, people that are also disempowered, but they're looking for power from others, they're trying to feed, they will poke and provoke you to react so that you give them your attention, which could be good, bad, or otherwise. It could be just, you don't even have to be in the same room as them. They could be like across the country.
Yes. On another, this guy was just, he made a comment. It was,
but your fear
went right back in, and then she went right back in, and then she went right back in. And it was just this like crazy exchange. And I could see it. She was in the follow-up message that sent us all over there to look at it. She was depleted.
Yep. So
he had all of her stuff. He had all
That's right. And who knows what he was doing? He might have just been sitting back laughing.
Right.
Like, totally got her, just totally fucked her, and she's weak now.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could have just been so afraid himself and caught in his own fear. And he's like, I need other people to be in fear with me. Let me provoke her. She's a weak spot, right? Not that she's a weak person, but when we are carrying fear, that is a weakness. Vulnerability is not weak, but the fear we carry of judgment of that, like, it can cause weakness. So someone I think it us that way.
Yeah. And I think that, by the way, that the guy could have, like a guy like that, or that guy could have shown up on any woman right now, any woman's post about that shit.
That's
and we all would have been
like, people do it like on purpose because they're weak.
All right. So sorry,
they're disempowered. So that place of provoking someone, that's what it is. It's not provocative in a sexy way. It's provocative in a manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to manipulate you to give me what I want. Or I'm going to manipulate you so you disempower, you lose your energy, and you will have no power to actually do something different. So that is the thing you need, like,
unconscious, right? Like, it's unconscious. Like, I think about, like, it happens even with me and my daughter, my 6-year-old, right? Like, it's been, it happened, like, she pokes the bear. I'm not getting out of the car. I'm just not. And I'm like, it's 90 degrees outside. It's illegal for you to stay in the car. I can go to jail, so you better get the fuck out of the car, kid. And she's like,
so it's part of human nature, but manipulation is not power. So let's actually say that as well, is that we have people in positions of power that are often, they only have power because they have the power to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
They can manipulate us because they have a title. You take that title away and they're just some no, they're just like anybody else, right?
Mhm.
Or they have a bunch of money and people give that power
Mhm.
and they allow that to be manipulation. So, but it's manipulation, it's not power.
Mhm.
Power is when I have the ability to not be affected. I choose what I'm going to be affected by. I choose my response to the world. So instead of being out here, I come back in and then I'm able to discern where I'm going. And I forget exactly because you mentioned provoking. So I started talking about provoking. I
Rebellion.
remember
Rebellion.
Okay, so then the one who I love thinking about is Gandhi, because Gandhi actually, I have this book, which I should probably share with you guys if I can reach it, but it's Gandhi,
The man.
the man. Here it is. I've read this book like 500 times. Gandhi, the man. So the reason I love, he has a very simple story. He was not a great man when he was young. He was not really that kind. He was misogynist, basically. But he evolved himself through that constant centeredness and not getting provoked by others. He stopped giving away his energy to everyone else and he held it and he centered himself so that every time he spoke, it was so responsive. He never prepared for anything. He was able to show up and just speak to the highest level of people, like the most powerful people in the world. And it was from his continued practice of getting uncomfortable, right? I said like being disempowered is really comfortable. We're so used to getting caught in fear, talking to our friends about what's going on and we can't believe it. And then we're just like stuck in this cycle to I'm going to get uncomfortable and hold this and only respond when I choose. And really, truly successful revolutions and rebellions are ones where you have leadership. Well, they will hold the tone of power. Well, they will not forget and they will not go into fear. They keep bringing their people up to a state of power. No, do not let them provoke you. No, do not give away any energy. Stay focused, stay focused. And that is the difference between failed and success and anything, actually. That's the difference between failure and success is how do we focus our energy? So it's really important to look at like that state of being inside. And again, it's very hard in this short conversation. Power is something you must feel. There's no like 1, 2, 3 to this. This is a state of feeling and it requires attention, but it's priceless. It's priceless to feel like I told Amy earlier, I was this reactive before too, you know, I would say I grew up in Jersey. I was like, blah, you know, gonna kill the guy driving by me. Like I had a reactive life. I was angry, I had a lot of anger. And then as time went on and I've become deeply curious, and this is my thing now, is this real curiosity around power. It's just continued to evolve, this curious evolution of how am I watching the world change around me when I am in power. So this is something that just popped in my mind a second ago as I was talking, was we also talked about, so if we go from the fear to the action, we miss the middle part, which is I better get myself centered to think about what exact action I'm going to take. And because people don't realize that every action they take matters, like everybody matters. Everything you say, do, how you act and how you move is creating an effect everywhere. So choosing a state of being that's powerful actually means that you make a difference, even if you just get into an empowered state and you walk into the grocery store and the people around you feel that centeredness. You know, like people that go into a room with the Dalai Lama, that man is power, right? They walk into the room with him and they're like, I feel so loved. I am okay. I could change the world, because he's up on the stage and they're like, oh, and all he's doing is sitting up there. So it's the recognition that your state of being will infuse every action. So if you start doing something from reaction, again, that's what you're generating more of, more fear you're putting in the world. So it's really important to understand and feel what you feel inside. Now that I know what it means to feel centered, it's not that I never, ever, you know, say things like I said earlier about those poor dudes. It's not like I never do it, but when I'm doing it now, I'm like, I know I'm doing it lightheartedly. So this is the first time I've ever had a situation that was so provocative come up when Roe versus Wade happened. And I knew it was going to happen based on what we'd seen come out. I haven't felt really reactive except for one moment, which got triggered by something else. And I think that lasted for like a total of like 4 minutes. 4 minutes in the last like however many weeks this has been since that initial memo came out. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. This is a completely different experience of life, that I don't feel disempowered to these people like they're making a choice about my life, because they're not. I'm choosing how I feel here, and I'm going to use my energy to make a good choices to how to make this change so it's the best for all women and all people. You know, it's like, but if we all talk in fear and we all get in fear and we're all afraid and we're afraid of it, that's, they've won.
Right.
They
exactly. That's the thing. They've won. That is the thing.
Yeah.
We've
Right
just
now they
given
haven't
all
won.
the power.
Yeah.
We are not powerful women.
Yeah.
We are
That's
stuck
right.
in the fucking wheel, and fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, I think if there's one thing from our conversation today, I'm like, I really hope anyone listening thinks about, if we feel fear and then we go touch our friends with that, and then we feel victimized by this decision, they're winning, because we're spreading fear and we're feeling that, and we're interested in our loss. And so it's like, we don't dismiss it. That is real. That's a real decision. But it's more like, I'm okay, that decision's been made, and I'm not going to give you any more of me. I'm not going to be like, oh, you have the power over me, and I'm like, I'm so afraid. No, motherfucker. I'm going to be like, I'm doing something with this energy. Yep. And we're going to be very clear-minded. And I'm not going to, so I want to go back to the other thing you talked about, resistance. The reason I think we need to be aware of resistance is always from a place of fear. Yeah. Think about it. You resist doing things because you're afraid. And so if we resist them, we're in fear. Better to stop and think, I'm not going to give you, I'm putting you aside. And I'm going to think exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to sidestep it and create a solution. That's the thing, right? It's about, you said this to me a while ago, about what we want to create versus what we want to avoid, right? It's not about avoiding, right? Or like saying, how do we fix the, like, no, like this thing happened. Okay, great. It's done. Now, where do we go from here? Right. Like, what do we want in the world? What's the future that we want to see? That's what we're here to create. Right. And kindness to self, the other thing we always talk about, but is just to be kind to ourselves, that this is disempowered state is something we've been taught for a very, 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 very long time, and has been reinforced by the patriarchy. Okay. So that's just straight up. So that the kindness to self, to recognize that we've gotten messages from every angle, is true. And we should be kind to ourselves. Like, wow, this is a challenge. This is something that's an affront constantly to us by other women as well, because women have self-hatreds. We talked about this the other day. Like, we also do it to ourselves, and we don't want to always admit that. But so it's like this thing, we have to be kind and recognize we do feel these things. And now let's do something about that, right? Let's not stay in the wallowing state of, talking about the patriarchy all the time and feeling like they're running the show. Yeah. We're running the show just as much. It's just that our choice of how we engage is potentially fueling that, I think. Yeah. So. I want to circle back to just two things. One was, we're talking about like, do something better with that energy, like use, create a more beneficial outcome from that state. Right. And I will say that I had like one of the best workouts ever, because I had read that post and then was like, and I was in the gym when I read it, and I'm like, I'm going to hit those weights, and no motherfucking whatever Supreme Court justice is going to have any dominion over my body right now. Fuck that. So I think that is true, right? Like, it helped me, number one, to burn off some of that, like, fiery, rage. Yeah. But at the same time, it was also really beneficial for me. Like, this is me being strong, feeling empowered, really feeling powerful, and knowing that I can be. And so the other thing that I want to just say is that, you and I have talked about this, and I'm going to share my silly analogy. But the thing, I think, for anybody who is also like, I think there's probably a lot of especially women out there who are feeling like, right, like that fear, right, like that fear, and watching the various things that have been changing in our country over the last 6 years or so. I think it's, and especially because of the media world that we live in now, between social media and the news media and all the things, right? I think it's very easy for us to get into a place where we feel like,
our fear is valid, right? That we should be afraid. And, and people have been likening this time, especially since Friday, to The Handmaid's Tale. And the thing that I keep thinking about is creme brulee. And it's so silly, but it's really, I think it's a great analogy, right? I think it's great. I love it. Yes, I think Jeff would agree. It's great, right? So creme brulee, right? It's like this amazing, wonderful dessert. It's like sweet magnificence. And the only way that we get to the sweet magnificence is by setting the fucker on fire. We have to we get a blowtorch, not just like a little flame, but like a blowtorch. And you have to burn the shit out of that thing in order for it to become the sweet magnificence that it is. And the way that I see it is that, and maybe I'm like, this is just the eternal optimist in me or whatever. I don't care. I have seen so many amazing things also happening amidst all the chaos, which is all the only shit that anybody ever wants to talk about, because it's so much easier and more comfortable and more familiar to get sucked into the fear, to spread the fear and to carry the fear with us and to talk about the fear. But like, I look at like the next generation of children, like mine included, who are these amazing, powerful people who are like, no, you can't keep grown-ups, you can't keep behaving the way that you are. You just aren't. We're not going to allow it. We're just not. Like, that is amazing, right? I think about gun legislation and how in the same 3-day span that SCOTUS was making their deliberation and their decision, the Senate, Congress, and President Biden worked together to sign into law the first bipartisan common sense gun legislation in 25 years at a federal level. 25 years that's going to make us safer, right? So think like, and that the Moms Demand Action Group that are like instrumental in helping to create things like that have doubled the membership of the NRA and their organization, and that they're building women, mothers, progressive thinkers like us up to be elected, right? Like we've got women like AOC and the Senate, like this stuff, things are changing. And we have to set fire to what has existed before in order for the sweet magnificence to come later. And that is what is so like I can't stop thinking about that.
Well, the other thing
wait, one more thing. And I am certain that the reason that more of these things are coming to light right now is because these fuckers, they smell the smoke.
That's
and
right.
They see the fucking sparks and they're afraid. And so they're like, well, we better get these ladies into fear again because
this
so go ahead.
Is key. That was what I was going to bring up. This is so key because their fear is they're lighting a fire under the ass right now because things are, there's no way we're going back to The Handmaid's Tale because there's too many of us. Like it's not going to happen. So that idea, like you said, there are people saying, well, we should be afraid. Watch where that message is coming from. Do not leave listening to this without remembering fear is an incredibly disempowered state unless there's a tiger on your head. Then when the tiger's on your head, fear will empower you to run the hell away, right?
Like
okay,
actually,
that's right. Actually. But that's like, there's so few moments in our lives that are actually require fear. So stop infusing your life with fear and be empowered. That fear, if you believe that people say you should be afraid, you should be there taking all your rights. Great. You've just agreed to lower your power level so that
now you can't even respond to it effectively. Now you're totally inefficient and you can't do a fucking thing about it.
Right. So it's like the other, just to go back to the beginning of your takeoff there was going to the gym and to just say, here's another, that's a tool, is that if you're uncomfortable and you're like, shit, I've got all this fear and like, but I'm not supposed to have fear because that's disempowering, then you can just feel what you're feeling inside. Go for whatever, move your body, dance like a maniac, go to the gym, move your body to the point where you feel release. Like burn off that edge of fear till you get back to this centeredness, and that you'll have this moment of, and that moment is the moment where you can come from power because you've kind of let go of the fear. You're back to a zone where you're like, okay, I can think clearly. That is a good tool. That is a great tool. So all the women should be moving their bodies, dancing like crazy, moving their bodies and getting to that moment. And then you think clearly, what do I need to do? Who do I need support? Where do I put my money? Where do I walk my shoes or my feet? You know, what do I need to do? And then you stop thinking about it. And then you go eat dinner with your family and you be joyful. And then you make love to your partner and you go to work and you do great work and you actually stay present with what you're doing. And then when you come back around to the next choice for the action, you're clear and you think, now this is the next thing I'm going to do. Right? Or this is the time I'm going to look for the option, but I'm going to stay clear. I'm not going to be in fear. I'm going to be in, what can I do that's going to use my energy most powerfully?
Beneficially. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because my biggest fear, right? Not fear. My biggest concern watching all of this is the fear that women are talking about the fear and it's contagious and that they're ramping the fear and that's helping. It's helping there's not really an enemy, but the enemy, you know, if you want to call it that, the enemy of taking our rights away or misogyny or whatever that is. Do not feed that. This is like, keep it to yourself. And when your friend is in fear, help her get out of fear, help her make some other choices, you know, joy, love, light. That's where we create good stuff from. So get in it. Don't put that down as frivolous. It's not frivolous. It's powerful. When we act from fear, that's not good. Does not create great results unless you can be fearful and get really powerful right after that.
Yeah.
I mean, it can activate you, and use it as an activation, but don't get caught in the fear.
Right. Let it be the catalyst. And then, oh, got it. Afraid. Yes. Okay, cool. Yes. See that now.
Transform it.
Let me do something else with this. That was a great, got it. Now I can, right. Yeah. I'm glad that you said that about the enemy, because I was thinking to myself a couple minutes ago, like, I don't feel like there's opposition, right? Like there's not a sense of like overcoming or resisting or fighting or anything like that. I'm fired up, but it's only because I want to impress the potential for optimism here that I think is lost. I think so many of us are so stuck in the fear, and it gets me excited, like, oh my God, there's so much opportunity here. And I want you to see it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I don't see opposition. I see opportunity. I see opportunity to like, I don't see an opportunity with the guy, like on my friend's thread, right? Like he's so far gone, right? There's no talking to somebody like that. He's going to stay where he's at. He's committed to his beliefs and his opinions. And he's that afraid that he's going to stay there. Right. And maybe there will be an opportunity for him to come a little closer to the middle, but like anybody on our side too, who's that afraid and is that, you know, is going to go jump into other people's threads and thrash them. Right. It's the same. Right. Well, the biggest opportunity that we have is to bring as much of ourselves as we can to the middle, to say like, okay, right. Like how do we coexist with differing opinions? How do we maintain our rights and civility at the same time? Right. Like that's, I think, the bigger opportunity that we're not going to talk about now. But I'm not looking at that guy going, fuck him. Like I was for a minute there, but at this moment I'm like, man, he must be so
don't give him any energy. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And that's it, right? Like we're just not, right? We're not gonna, like we're this is where we're going. They're staying over here. Right. This is where we're going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So in summary, I think, you know, if there were going to be some steps to follow, I know this is a practice that you and I have been working on, trying to create some mastery around for many years. But to me, the simple gist, if you were going to write something down to take away, would be that the first thing to do when you notice, like when you're triggered, is to notice that you're in an emotion. Like notice it, and it's hard not to, right? You're like, I'm so fired up, fuck that guy, whatever. Like notice the emotion, and then do nothing, which is going to feel very, very, very uncomfortable. Right. So step 2 is do nothing. Step 3 is ride out the discomfort. Right. All this happens very quickly. Right. You got to notice it, stop, because your reaction is probably going to be to like start typing something on it, like fuck that, fuck whatever. Just do nothing. Ride out the discomfort of that. Get in. If we had to say this is an explicit episode and then they had to like bleep out every other, like I swear this would be the worst one we've ever done. I know, I'm sorry. There's no bleeping. It's just, I know. It is what it is. This is, you know, I mean, like, come on, this is like the perfect opportunity for your New Jersey and my New York. That's right. Like we can't, I'm sorry. That's feminism and all the things. So whatever. Anyway, so notice the feeling is there. Do nothing. ride out the discomfort, because it's going to feel like you're doing nothing, and your mind is going to say, you can't do nothing, you have to do something, right? So ride the discomfort, and then find a way to do something. Like if you got to move your body, whatever it is, to then get you in the state of centered, enlivened, neutral, where you know now you have some clarity, and then you can focus your energy and take action from that place where it will be most beneficial to the cause or the thing that's got you fired up. And don't spread the fear. Fear is contagious. Be powerful. Be
That's
powerful.
Right.
Yeah. Anything
Word.
else?
I think
Word.
so.
I love this conversation.
I know. I love this stuff. This is life-changing stuff.
Yeah.
And and I think so many people I know are really potent people to be so impactful, and yet they get caught, like I always did years ago, get caught in this like fears, internal fears and external fears, and they just drain us right down to like not being powerful enough to like be impactful or make really clear decisions. And I think that is something women need to be really conscientious of, because we've learned that, and it's time to unlearn it.
Yeah.
You know, they're scared for a reason. Women are badass. That's all.
Oh yeah. No shit.
Yeah.
All right. Tell a friend, share, please. This is useful. This conversation is useful. Please.
Yeah. And you are more
it.
than welcome to reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk to Amy or reach out to me, and contact us if you have more questions.
Find Kelly at kellysheets.com, KELLYSHEETS.com. Find me at amybirks.com, AMY, B as in boy, IRKS as in Sam.com. And stay
May the force be
powerful,
with
y'all.
you.
Yes.
I always love that. The power hand.
Yes.
Right.
All right. See ya, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Hold on. I'm not doing that. I'm just turning off the recording. I'm not leaving the meeting because I want to keep talking to Kelly. Bye, y'all.